How to read construction drawings. You know, you'll be surprised. There's actually a lot, actually this isn't funny, but there's a lot of people out there leading projects, and some of them, don't tell anyone, they don't know how to read drawings. There's a pattern to this that you need to know because the best builders know how to read construction drawings. And I just want to say, builders read plans. Brokers don't. They just dispatch people out in the field. So would you like a fail-safe way to do this every time? I think you should. I think you would. So let's go right now. All right, so this is my jam. I love this. So every time I go to teach project engineers or field engineers, we cover this because this is huge. And regardless of whatever you've heard, like no one just is born or comes into construction and knows how to read construction drawings. It's like learning another language. And some people can kind of generally get it, but not really dig deep, and then not have the skills that they need to answer questions or really dig deep from a builder standpoint and solve problems on their job site. So I highly recommend that everywhere you go, any job that you're on, that you follow this pattern. The other thing is, and don't tell the technology companies, but I love me a printed half-size set of plans. Like I will love them up. I will take the binding off. I will separate them by discipline. I'll get a nice laminated cover on both sides. Like Buddy used to say, I'll go down to Staples or Michael's like it's Black Friday, and I'll go get highlighters and pencils and rulers and little templates and all kinds of things like to write on my plans, and I'll post them. I remember, so it's funny, my daughter the other day was teasing me. She's like, remember Dad when you used to have me slip sheet drawings on your projects? And I'm like, yeah, that was great. She's like, no, that wasn't great. But like, I love me some drawings. Now, if you do it electronically, that's great. My mind just needs like a big canvas to like draw on. So I've always loved plans. But either way, here's what I'm saying. Whether you have a half-size set of drawings and you love them and you protect the cover and you're highlighting them and you're protecting them and like, you're stacking them nice on your desk, or if you reference them on a Bluebeam or Procore or wherever you're referencing them, that's fine. But when you treasure those drawings, that's when you know you've got it. That's when you know you're a real builder. So that's an exciting moment for me, and I hope that you have the same experience. So let's go into some of the best practices for reading drawings. Number one, whether you're in old-timey blueprints or current construction drawings, or you're doing it online, it doesn't matter. Get familiar with the title block. You'll need to know the naming convention. You'll need to know what drawings you have available, what different disciplines there are, how it's broken out, how the drawings are structured. Get familiar with the title block, number one. Number two, and I love this, understand the symbols and the abbreviations. I always tell people you're going to spend more time in the front matter, what I call the front matter, the front sections of the drawings, where you'll have the symbols, the abbreviations, you'll have the table of contents, you'll have the general notes. Spend time there because it gives you a code. You're learning a language, and so when you're learning a language, you'll need to know how that language is structured, some of the different rules to the language. You'll want to know the alphabet. So the same thing with construction drawings. You'll want to know the symbols and the abbreviations, and you'll need to know all of that front matter because it teaches you how to read that language in the rest of the drawings. Most designers are pretty similar, but each design team will have a little bit different style on how they do things, their formatting, their line weights, their symbols, their typical details, so you'll want to get familiar with that. 3, go through the typical details and the general notes. It's super boring, but I recommend those general notes, just go through them and read them and highlight the key things that you'll need to know when you're reading the rest of the drawings. So some things that I typically find in there are provisions for how long you have to wait to apply waterproofing after you strip formwork. That can be a huge consideration when it comes to scheduling, especially in the foundations and with the basement. You will find other structural provisions. You will find provisions in there with your typical details in your general notes when it comes to stepping footings and backfill and over excavation. Like, these are things that are huge that you have to know in order to not sustain an impact in the field because you didn't know it. Like, some of these things are pretty major. Like, if you're dealing with over X, or if you're dealing with durations that you have to wait to waterproof, like an elevator pit, for instance, after you strip the wall forms, or if you have to wait 7 days to even strip the wall forms. Like, these are huge things that you're going to find in the general notes and the typical details. Something I always find in the typical details too is the foundations. When you have underground MEP crossing the footings, especially the continuous footings, it will show you how to step it down or how to sleeve it. And those are key things that you have to know as a part of your foundation coordination. If you don't do it right, it can really hold up your schedule. So those are just examples. Always read the general notes and the typical details before you go any further. Number 4, follow the drawing sequence. I like to go to the plan views, and this is where I grab my highlighters, right? Or if you're doing it online, do it however you want. But I'll go to that page and read the page notes, the page symbols, the page abbreviations, and the page details, right? Then I'll go in and start looking at this 2D image of what I'm supposed to build. And I'll start referencing the details, the cut sections, and actually go to those other pages. That's why I like to flip back and forth with a physical set of drawings, because I can start to really get like a 3D image in my mind. And what I'll do is I'll either check mark or highlight the details as I understand them, so I know I have the whole picture. Number 5, always reference the site plan, because when you're in the architectural drawings, in the structural drawings, and you're referencing these pages, you also need to know how it fits within the site. Sometimes you don't even know where the building goes unless you reference the site plan. That site plan is crucial. It will show you how the entire building is put together, how it interacts with the rights of way, the sidewalks, the adjacent streets, other structures, and it will really place this knowledge and your mental frame in that 3D image within the context of the entire project. Number 6, focus on specific disciplines. I remember a general superintendent telling me, actually he was a project superintendent at the time, we were building a prison in California. He said, Jason, right now I want you to focus on civil, and the site plan, and the structural drawings. Get familiar with those. Let's build this structure. In about 2 months before we're actually going to start MEP and architectural scopes or disciplines, we'll start researching those. I was new at the time, right? So he had me focus on the structurals. That was super helpful, so I didn't get too confused. So focus on one discipline at a time. Number 7, always pay attention to section views. That provides that 3D element, right? And as you go, you might get to an elevation view or a section cut or a profile, and that might have details in and of itself. And so you'll want to trace those details in those cut sections as you reference those details themselves as well, so that you, by the time you're done, this was always my target, I wanted to read everything, every detail, at least to get this image of what it's going to take this to build this building in my mind. And so I knew I hadn't read everything or researched all the drawings until everything was highlighted. Another thing is, if you have like a stack of drawings this big and you're overwhelmed, hey, just look out at least, if not 120 days, but at least 6 weeks, and stay referenced and researched 6 weeks out. So look at the schedule, what are we going to build, and make sure that you are current on those scopes at a minimum. I highly recommend you go farther out and know more than that, but at a minimum you want to be 6 weeks out, if not 120 days. Number 8, look for revision clouds. This is going to indicate that a change was made, right? And you'll also have a revision key. But when you're looking at drawings, and if you're either keeping them up to date on your software or you're slip sheeting, like my kids hate, make sure you know where those revision clouds are and what changes have been made. That way you know how to properly interact and manage your trade partners. Number 9, and this is huge, coordinate with the specifications. I know we see these big spec books and we're like, I don't want to do that. Like, that seems like a lot of words. Like, I don't want to do that. But it's very key that you do this. 2 things that I recommend on every project is that we have a summary of the most important points from the prime agreement, and that we have a summary of the most important items from the specifications, and a testing and inspection register. That's really huge. Somebody, I usually joke, like, find the person we don't like the most. Somebody gets to go through the specs and identify not only the procurement log, or the submittal register, but also the testing and inspection register. Every project should have it, which shows the testing and inspection requirements for all scopes of work. But I'm saying this to say, you've got to know the specs too. I know it's a lot of reading, and I know it's tough. Just loop that in with the pre-construction meeting. Make sure you read them, make sure you highlight them, make sure the crews know the key components of those specifications, you've got to always reference the plans and specs. I'm sorry, but it's a part of our life. Number 10, seek clarification. If something doesn't make sense, it might need to become an RFI, or just ask a question and maybe somebody can help you. Quite often, the information is there, but you might need a second set of eyes or do a little bit more digging to get the full context. And number 11, make sure you stay up to date. Do not use either electronic or printed information unless it's up to date. Now, the only caveat to that is if a superintendent has a printed set of half-size drawings or whatever, it's usually half-size, but has a printed set of drawings and they're not fully up to date, and that superintendent is using it to like get familiar with the project, but is not really building off of that set, I can kind of see that. But anything that people are going to use for submittals, use for building in the field, use for inspections, use for communication, they have to be up to date. And two last things that I want to say. You've got to dig into the MEP drawings. I know it's so complex. I know, like, when I open them, I'm like, what does this mean? Like, this is crazy. Go to your electrician, go to your mechanical contractor, your plumbing contractor, ask them to teach you. They don't mind, especially as you're an engineer. If you do it as a super, they'll be like, you don't know this, but ask them anyway. But go figure out how to read those drawings, especially the flow diagrams. On the electrical drawings, especially the one-line or the single-line diagram. You have to know that not only for scheduling, but to understand how the installation is going to go in, and you have to understand the overall impact and the scope of those trades and those disciplines. So don't shy away from the MEP drawings. And the second one that I'll leave you with, which some people actually forget to your own detriment, always read the soils report. That will be a part of the project exhibits, right? It'll be a part of the project documentation, but sometimes it doesn't automatically package in with the drawings or get printed with the drawings, and you have to reference it. So it's going to tell you what the soils are like, what the recommendations are, and how you as a contractor need to mitigate any risks, and how you can prepare the pad for the foundations. And it will a lot of times really educate and accentuate and provide context for the structural drawings. And if people do not read them, they can really get into a lot of trouble because they won't do the right over-X, they won't do the right prep, they won't do the right recompaction, scarification, and they won't know where their unsuitables are on the project. So you have to read the soils report. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to link you to a beautifully formatted Canva graphic for how to read drawings. I hope you post it up in your office somewhere and that you remember it, and at least you use it to teach other engineers who are up and coming how to read drawings so they can be successful. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.